find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
It surprises me sometimes that I too have to clap.
Yeah, you can't just say clap and exist in a plane where you clapped already.
I heard you existed in a very interesting plane.
Oh, yeah.
The plane of Las Vegas.
The plane, yeah. Chris and I and a coworker and her partner went to Vegas for the weekend recently, and it was wild. I don't know if y'all are on the Instagram. I did post when I was there because I spied out of the corner of my eye a billboard for the Titanic exhibit and was like, fuck yeah.
There's no one in the world that this is more made for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was like, oh, it's in the hotel next door to us? Great. Oh, it's $50? Great. Oh, they're going to take our picture at the beginning so we can Jack and Rose on the fake Titanic deck?
Dreams come true.
Awesome. Yeah, so every second of it was worth it. They gave you a ticket at the beginning where you you got assigned like a person, a real person, and then at the end of it you got to find out if your person survived or not. It was brutal.
And Katelyn, did you survive?
Yeah, my lady did. She was in third class from Ireland, I believe. And then the guy that Chris was assigned to did not make it.
I'll say what I said to you over text. My condolences.
Yeah, it was sad.
You're a widow now.
Yeah. Only Titanic-wise. Otherwise, we're good. Have you seen... This was circulating for a while, but I saw it the other day. There's a meme of... It's like a graph of Titanic deaths, and it's like a giant spike in 1912, and then a little blip on 2023.
Yes, it's funny because it's true.
So true, so morbid, so funny, though.
But it serves as a very stern reminder that we are not masters of the ocean.
No, and I remember the chokehold that story had on me and on like the rest of the world when that happened.
Myself included.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I couldn't think of anything else because it was just like, what if they're sitting at the bottom of the ocean like waiting to die? But I did at one point during the Titanic exhibit go like, why in the hell, when we have all this video and all this, we have robots that will go down there for us and get stuff. Like, why in the world would you do that? Why would you go down there?
Human hubris. It's, it's wanting to see it for yourself. If it was possible and not dangerous like that, I would want to see the Titanic for myself. I mean, I bet it's truly awe-inspiring, but also the technology, it was not there for them. It was not with them. The technology was not in the room with us.
No, I don't know what they were thinking. I'm still waiting for some kind of like lawsuit to come out from all of that. I haven't heard of anything, but I haven't like sought it out either.
I would like to look into that because I think that would be interesting. I have no idea.
I guess they signed their life away to go down in the submersible, but anyway, so Vegas was fun. Had to go to the Titanic exhibit because guess what? Gambling is not really my thing. Which is probably a good thing. Slot machines are just like sad and boring and expensive. I like roulette and blackjack, not with people, because some of the tables, the minimums were like $25, $50 to play. And I was like, no. The only time we did that was, this was really funny. My brother Venmo'd me $150 and was like, put it all on black when he found out where I was. And I couldn't do the full hundo 50. It just didn't feel right. But I was convinced to do $100 on black. And it landed on black, so we got another 100 back. So that was the most exciting gambling moment of the trip. It was great.
That sounds insane. Most people don't win anything.
Right. Yeah. So to win $100 was cool. We ate at Gordon Ramsay restaurant. It was so fucking good. I wanted to go to Hell's Kitchen in my heart of hearts, but everything is like $90. So
yeah,
we went to his pub, which was slightly more approachable.
And what did you get, if I might ask?
Everybody was getting steak, so I got short rib to be different. And it was the first time having short rib, and it was so goddamn delicious.
I love short rib. That's like a pull apart
Yeah.
meat.
Oh my God, it was so good. So definitely going to have more short rib. Definitely going to go have more Gordon Ramsay meals. There was also, I didn't go, but I texted you because there was a King Tut exhibit next to the Titanic exhibit. And yeah, I'm just sorry. It was all very expensive. So we were just like, okay, we have to pick and choose our battles here.
Yeah.
AKA what we entertain ourselves with.
I mean, if I ever make it out there, which is unlikely, but I would love to see that Tut exhibit because as we discussed earlier on the podcast, he got a lot of artifacts and a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, and there was also a body world type exhibit.
Oh, we've talked about them.
Exactly, yeah. Body world, body work. We talked about
Body
this in that episode, but I think.
Worlds.
There was an exhibit like that we also didn't go to. Blue Man Group still going strong. Didn't go to that either. But they're there at the Luxor where the Titanic and King Tut exhibits are because it's like Egypt themed, so I guess Titanic fits in there. I don't know.
And the Blue Men, they fit there too?
Somehow, yeah, it doesn't quite make sense.
Didn't you also go to another museum that might be of interest to our listeners?
Yes, so it was called Zach Baggins Haunted Museum.
Oh my God.
Everybody. And
to fill some of you in, Zach Baggins is the guy from Ghost Hunters. He is the spiky black hair, tight band t-shirt, feels the ghosts in like every place.
And he's incredibly rich and just buys all these crazy artifacts and items for his museum. And so like the big ones are, there were some haunted dolls. There was like one doll named Peggy. There was a spirit box in her room. Chris thought he heard it say Katelyn, but I think he was just thinking about me and manifested it. I'm going to hope that's true.
And let us all remember, Chris is touched by the supernatural.
Yeah, so I was like, nope. I wouldn't even go in the room with that doll because I was not interested.
Fair enough.
But there was a lot of true crime artifacts, I guess you could call it. Yeah, like Ted Bundy's murder kit from when he was arrested was there. Some of Charlie Manson's like hair and creations that he, like a pendant that he made in prison. John Wayne Gacy stuff, like obviously some portraits that he did. There was a picture of Zach Baggins holding a piece of John Wayne Gacy's brain.
Oh.
So there's that. The box that Richard Ramirez's ashes were in at one point, like just like random shit. And there was a cauldron from Ed Gein's house. Ed Gein is a serial killer who like famously made the skin suit and like did stuff with human skin. So that my stomach dropped in that room. I was like I did not feel well in that room.
Yeah, I'm so conflicted about these artifacts because can you call them artifacts? Yes and no, I guess.
It depends. Like
where should they be?
It's icky. Yeah, where should they be? Exactly. Like I think museum is the place for them, maybe, or like in police storage. Like some of it I was like, I guess the cases are so old that it doesn't really matter. And a lot of the artifacts, quote unquote, were like sold by members of the killer's family. So like they're profiting off of it. It's just,
and it's like, how do we feel about that? Yeah,
it's conflicting, and yeah, it's icky. Because it felt very like he is a good showman. Like he would come on these videos in every room because it was like there was a guide on the tour, but there were a lot of like videos that Zach Baggins had recorded. And there was one part where they gave us the history of James Dean's haunted car. And then the like lights changed. You turn around and like a curtain dropped and there's like a piece of the engine or transmitter or whatever the fuck. They had a celebrity exhibit with Brandon Lee's jacket from The Crow. He like famously died in an accident on set. Randomly's the last issued passport of Patrick Swayze they have. I was like, okay.
Is it there because he is deceased? Like,
yeah, I guess. Like, I'm sure it just got auctioned off at his like estate sale or something. So like things like this just like exist in the world, and like obviously these auctions and things happen. Like everybody has to make money somehow, as long as it's not the serial killer or killer themselves actually profiting off of their murder. But it still is conflicting, because do we really need to see those items? I felt weird in there, TBH.
Yeah, and it's like not the type of true crime presenting that we are in the school of, you know?
Right. It felt a little bit like
glorifying them a little bit.
Glorifying it, or like it was like, oh, I paid money to see like shit-stained sheets from a serial killer's house, like, and robes that famous people died in, like their death clothes is what they called them. And just like, it was wild. So it was like a mix of like paranormal stuff, like just random shit, and then the dog's barking. Sorry.
It's okay. It's been known to happen on this podcast a couple of times.
Yeah. And yeah, just some like paranormal, creepy stuff, but then a lot of like true crime stuff that was unexpected, to say the least.
Yeah.
But fascinating.
Yeah, I can't say I'm not interested.
Yeah. I was like, damn, I mean, this is insane. There was also Dr. Kevorkian's van that he like killed people in. That's Dr. Death, like, who made physician-assisted suicide a lot more, like, known about. Anyway, that was Vegas. Maybe not the traditional side of Vegas, but definitely had some bony elements for sure.
Oh, yeah, you rolled them bones.
Thanks, Chris. Bye, idiot.
Bye, Alice.
In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie Silica Schwartz.
And I'm Katelyn Burnin' Love Hart. This is the podcast where we talk about bones, travel recommendations for the spookily minded, and so much more. Welcome back, everyone.
I hope you've been having a wonderful beginning of summer, end of spring kind of time.
So glad it's here.
Yeah, we've been getting a little bit of sunshine, but we're into that kind of June gloom type of time.
For sure, yeah. There will be days where I have like every window open, fans blowing, and then the next day like shut it all down because it's raining very hard. So it's hard to predict.
Yeah, I really do wish the Pacific Northwest could have a definitive season change.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm going to go first this week. I found a little story on the web, on the internet, that just kind of shook me to my core. And it's not what you think it would be. Like, we'll see if you think this is a typical story for me. I don't think it is.
Okay.
So my sources for this, all this interesting, Wikipedia, TampaBay.com, Hana.org, which is a blog, I believe. Oh yeah, it's like about the historic old Northeast properties. And then Bay News 9. So we're going to go down to Florida, where some real weird happened in the 50s. And I'd like to tell you about it.
Well, it's Florida, so I expect it to be buck wild.
Yeah, it's kind of like early, again, in the 50s. So it's like early Florida. I mean, not that early. I don't know when Florida became a state, but definitely on point with what Florida is known as today, which is just the most batshit crazy of all the states. So I'm going to tell you about Mary Reeser. and her tragic and also very confusing death. I don't have a ton of information about like Mary herself, unfortunately. Most of the sources that I read and that I could find, were her death, I think, really like outshadowed her life and she became infamous. And yeah, we're missing a little bit of the like details about her, unfortunately, and her when she was alive. I know that she was born in 1884.
Damn.
Like, which sounds so crazy. Yeah,
but
like
she
historically
was.
But it happened, okay?
But what if?
So she and her husband, Dr. Richard Reeser Sr., were from Columbia, Pennsylvania. But a few years after her husband passed away, she moves to St. Petersburg, Florida, to be closer to her son and grandchildren. What I was able to find out, she was a devoted mother and grandmother. She loved needlepoint and entertaining, but she didn't particularly like Florida. I think she was just there because her family was there, not because she liked like Florida. One of the things that she took issue with Florida was that it was too hot. And she also missed her friends back in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And on the last day of her life, she spent some time with her son, and he could tell that she was kind of bothered about these things that day. According to him, he is also Dr. Richard Reeser, but junior. Mm-hmm. She was worried about taking a trip, I guess. She was about to like travel, so she was feeling very anxious. And when he left, she was about to... Oh, I just said that like very Canadian.
Yeah.
She was about to change into her nightgown, take 2 sleeping pills, and smoke a cigarette before bed. Iconic.
The way.
So the sleeping pills that she took were the only thing in her system when what happened. Okay, here we go. So it's July 2nd, 1951, and Mary Reeser's landlady, whose name is Pansy Carpenter, great name.
Yeah, seriously.
Drops by the apartment to deliver a telegram, because this is...
1950.
People that were born in the 1880s and living in the 1950s.
And they send telegrams, get over it.
Time is wild. So the landlady knocks on the door, but nobody answers. And she, I guess she tries the knob, and it's very hot.
Oh, God.
And, that's that's a sign of a fire, right? So she's calls the police. And the police get there. They go into the apartment. Quote, officers arrived at the apartment and discovered a pile of ashes where Reeser's easy chair used to be. Within it, they found the chair's coil springs, part of Reeser's spine, her left foot still donning a black silk slipper, and her skull shrunken to the size of a cup.
What?
Yeah. So the knob is hot. They call for the fire brigade, and they go in there. It's definitely smoky and ashy in there. There's stuff going on, but the apartment is mostly intact, and there is a pile of ashes on the floor, again, with parts of the chair, her spine, her left foot, and her shrunken skull.
That's wild. The shrunken skull is really getting me here.
Yeah, that's a weird detail. So, again, this is so bizarre because there was a candle nearby where the body was found. It had melted into a puddle of wax. The light switches on the walls that were plastic were warped. And then there was soot everywhere, like I said, but that was it. There were white bed sheets, because this was in her, she had a small apartment. There were white bed sheets nearby that some parts of it were still pure white.
Weird.
So, what the fuck is what I'll just start with.
Yeah, it is, as the kids would say, unusual.
It's super unusual because we know that to cremate a body, typically it requires at least 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit, temperatures, for a sustained amount of time.
Yeah.
So how is, just a bit of her apartment and space, disintegrated, but then like the rest of the building is fine and other parts of her room are fine too. Like, how does that even... If it was a 1400 degree fire...
big enough fire to cremate her and shrink her skull.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, how does it not catch the roof on fire? How does it not catch the rest of the floor on fire? How's the whole building not on fire?
Yeah, exactly. So the St. Petersburg, Florida, not Russia. The police begin their investigation, and of course, the tips start rolling in.
Aha! The tipsters.
Quote, "A ball of fire came through the open window and hit her. I seen it happen."
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you? Oh, you saw that?
Well, they saw it happen.
A ball of fire hit her in the easy chair, and that was it? That was the end of it?
She had run afoul of some very angry dragons.
I guess, yeah. Where did the... So you saw the ball of fire, but you didn't see where it came from? Or I'm just... Okay.
Am I going to be the first one to call aliens on this one?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly can.
You can do
I don't
anything.
know if you're the first. You can do it and say anything, but I don't know if you're the first. Another person thought that this one's wild, claimed that she was murdered and then cremated off-site, and then they brought the remains, like, back to the apartment and, like, set it... yeah.
Interesting thought, but I don't think so.
Some people said, "Oh, I smelled a strange odor outside of her house that night."
Was it her burning to death?
I mean, probably. That would be strange.
Be a strange odor.
People have basically just theorized this shit to death. They have blamed, it says, quote, "Theorists blamed everything from the fabric of the chair cushion to napalm, phosphorus, and thermite bombs."
I mean... We've heard of some crazy shit happen before, so I guess...
Yeah, and this is pretty crazy. Like, because assumedly it's like a wood... There's some wood in the building, right? Like, and fire doesn't...
beat wood.
Like, fire just eats wood, yeah, and like... Yeah, like all her shit is okay. Like most of her stuff is okay. Like the plastic is a little bit warped, but that's basically the extent of the damage in the apartment. Some people thought it was a lightning strike, which I personally love. Like
through the window?
Lightning struck her through the window.
Damn, lightning's aim is getting really good.
I mean, yeah, like that's crazy. I mean, but at this point, it's like every theory is like, well, but we don't actually know what happened. So Mary Reeser becomes known as the Cinder Woman of St. Petersburg.
Aww.
And yeah, that's where we are right now.
Like end?
No.
Okay.
No. I just mean like in this moment. What if that was the end of my story?
I don't know. You said you had a short one. I was about to throw out some theories.
Well, okay, so we're going to get into that.
Okay.
One thing comes up for me and also the sources, obviously. If she was on fire, why didn't we hear anything? There was no, like, screaming that was heard. That landlady that was delivering the telegram lived in the apartment next door.
Ooh.
But didn't hear anything that night. Only knew something was wrong because the doorknob was too hot to touch.
Also, why didn't she get up?
Exactly, yeah. So the theory around that is that the sleeping pills, like, just fucking
knocked her
sedated
out.
The shit out of her, yeah.
That makes sense.
And that she may have died from smoke inhalation before, like... her body had, like, hopefully that was, like, quick.
Oh, I hope so.
Obviously, that's terrible, but yeah, like, she was just sedated on sleeping pills. I mean, and drugs are powerful, so they're not to be misused, kids.
Yeah, seriously. Only with your physician's permissions.
Okay, back to this. So, about a month after her death, Mary's death, the police chief, whose name is J.R. Reichart, released a statement saying that this case was, quote, "the most unusual case I've seen during my almost 25 years of police work." And they were not getting anywhere with this, so he decided to send a letter and send evidence to the FBI. And he wrote to J. Edgar Hoover, quote, "Dear Mr. Hoover, this fire is too puzzling for the small town force to handle."
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah. So they sent portions of the rug, like samples of rubble, smoke samples, it says, which I assume is like soot, segments of furniture. And apparently FBI agents spent 3 weeks examining like this case. And they just basically said that it's probably not spontaneous human combustion. They found no evidence that lightning had struck her or the building. I guess all of the fuses in the apartment were still intact. And there were no like substances that they could detect that like were accelerants. So that was ruled out. Quote, "Common combustible fluids and accelerants such as alcohol, gasoline, etc. would probably be consumed in such a fire and no trace of them detected afterwards." So that like throws a little bit of shade on this FBI report. This is from the police chief, which is like fair because we're dealing with technology and testing in the 50s rather than today. Like today, I'm sure we would be able to find these things even if there was a small trace of them. But back then, yeah, that might have been true. So the FBI thinks that Mary Reeser took these sleeping pills and fell asleep in her chair while smoking her cigarette. The nightgown she was wearing was made of rayon acetate and probably caught fire from the ash of her cigarette.
Oh, yeah.
This is where it gets a little grody. So she was about 170 pounds at the time of her death.
Mm-hmm.
This is just, here we go. "Human fat could have fed," this is a quote, "could have fed a fire that smoldered throughout the evening, allowing hot air and smoke to rise to the top of the room." So it was just like her body kind of became like a candle, honestly.
Yeah, the wick effect.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Her clothing, the rayon, is so flammable that it like acted as this like stable source for the fire, and then her fat kept the fire contained to just her in the chair.
Yep, absolutely wild. And so is this quote from Ernestine Reeser, who was Mary Reeser's daughter-in-law. She told this to the Times. She said this to the Times in 1991. The St. Petersburg Times, not the New York Times.
Okay.
Quote, "Mary was a great smoker. The cigarette dropped to her lap. Her fat was the fuel that kept her burning. The floor was cement and the chair was by itself. There was nothing around her to burn."
Wow. It's like the perfect situation for like that particular occurrence.
Yeah, there might have been wood like in the walls or somewhere else, but if the floor is cement, yeah, I mean, I could see it. And somehow, like miraculously, nothing else in the room caught fire. So that's the best that the FBI could offer to the police force of St. Petersburg at the time. There is an anthropologist, Wilton Krogman, from the University of Pennsylvania, who does disagree with this.
Ooh.
Because he thinks that instead of shrinking, her skull should have exploded during the quote-unquote cremation.
Yeah.
He also said, quote, "Then there was the cremation of the body, which would have required several thousand degrees over the course of several hours. I cannot conceive of such complete cremation without more burning in the apartment." Which, I mean, fair point.
Yeah.
It's batshit. So, yeah, it's been over 70 years since Mary Reeser, the Cinder Woman, passed away in her Florida apartment. And that is the best theory of what happened to her. But no one will ever know for sure.
She could have been struck by lightning through her window.
But the fuses weren't blown.
Well, I'm still going back to my aliens theory.
I mean, yeah, an alien threw a fireball into her apartment window, which was open, I guess.
We have a witness for the fireball.
Yeah, there is one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a Pitbull song. Fireball. Am I right?
Yeah, it's about a woman who gets hit by a fireball. It's something that happened in Pitbull's childhood.
I'll look it up later. But yeah, I mean, I believe that the Wick effect took place here and that she just passed mercifully, peacefully because she was on sleeping pills. That's what I have to believe, because if her neighbor didn't hear anything, like, nobody would have heard anything.
I mean, and she didn't get out of her chair.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you're on fire, you usually move because it's excruciating and terrible.
Yeah.
I always find these spontaneous human combustion cases very interesting.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like it is a little bit more commonplace than you would think.
Yeah.
And that's unsettling. These unexplainable fires. Like, what? It doesn't make sense scientifically.
Well, the fact that it's so contained to one single area is so, like, we think of fire as this raging, unstoppable thing. So it feels very unnatural and unsettling to have a fire that is so contained and so hot to cremate a person. We talk about this all the time, that, like,
murderers underestimate that all the time.
They do not go hot enough.
Yeah.
Not
gross,
that we want them to, but
but we've seen it time and time again.
We're saying, that people purposefully lighting fires can't make them hot enough to cremate a body. So that's how hot the fire has to be for this situation.
Yeah, and just, a little soot on the ceiling and, yeah. Oh, I have a picture.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm going to send you a picture of the leg and the chair.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah.
Oh, Katelyn.
I know. It's scary. It's wild.
It's scary.
I'm sorry to Mary, too. Like, that's
a horrible way to die and a horrible way to be remembered.
Well, like, her death kind of, it seems like, outshadowed her life.
Yeah.
Just from what I read. And, I didn't read every single source. But, I couldn't find very much about her actual life.
Which is so sad because, I'm sure she had a whole life.
Yeah, I'm sure she had other accolades other than being the Cinder Woman. Anyway, yeah, that's what I got because that's all we know.
Yeah. Damn, do you remember the human combustion episode of Bones?
I know that I've seen it. I know that.
I just know that
I
they
don't
must
remember
have
the details.
taken direct inspiration from this case just because there is that kind of like almost cartoonish, like full human limb and then ash right there.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was so cartoonish and impossible. Yes. And remember they have to spray the hairspray on the hand. Because
it's made of ash and it's, as people are walking around the room, it's like breaking.
Yeah.
That's right. And she's like, does anybody have an adhesive? Yeah, that's right.
And the real estate woman with giant hair is like, I have hairspray.
Yeah. And when can I get back to my, open house?
Selling my house. It's like,
yeah, lady, this is an active crime scene.
We could do the whole episode.
Oh, yeah. It's all coming back. Once you've seen a Bones, you've seen them all.
Seen them all.
Oh my God, there was we're watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Chris and I right now.
We are too.
Oh, cute. I'd never seen it before.
Oh, I love that show.
There was a part in the episode we were watching last night where Boyle, the like kind of sidekick character, was like, somebody was like, oh, it's okay, like I'm DVRing Bones so I can watch it later, and Boyle's like, I can't watch that, too scary.
Yes. Can't watch Bones, too scary.
Yeah Great show.
Fantastic.
Great show. Yeah. Okay, so if you think you have a theory about Mary Reeser's death that we didn't cover, put it down in the comments on the Instagram picture. And listen to an ad from Podmoth while you think about your best theory.
I'm still going with aliens, so don't take that one.
Okay.
Cannot be saved. Follow me and Rock is a weapon.
Welcome to The Ugly Radio on the Podmoth Network. A lo-fi sci-fi audio theater anthology series made for late nights and strong drinks. Join us monthly as we broadcast a pirate signal across time and space, featuring stories, songs, and frequencies from a rotating list of voice actors, writers, storytellers, and musicians. If you're looking for high-quality science fiction, skin-crawling horror, and other genre fiction, listen to The Ugly Radio on the Podmoth Network, now available wherever you get your podcasts. The Ugly Radio. See you in the void.
So my theory is that a UFO was over her house, slightly diagonally, and they shot a laser into her house or into her window and shot her, and then she was disintegrated by the laser.
Instantly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good theory. I'm pretty sure nobody thought of that in the 50s.
So there you go.
Yeah. I think it was like a very elaborate mafia hit. She somehow had, this sweet old lady had mafia ties, and they had to get rid of her in the most conspicuous way possible.
I mean, I love that.
They were the ones on the ground with a big gun that shoots a fireball into her window. Oh, I keep hitting the microphone.
Hey, I'm fireballing here.
Yeah, I'm really talking with my hands a lot today.
Yeah, you are. You're embracing that mob attitude.
Yeah.
Katelyn.
Yes, Sophie?
We did these really wonderful big episodes where each of us really delved into something that interested us. And I was remiss in those episodes. I didn't present any dinosaur facts.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Hit me with several if possible.
Well, I'm going to do a dinosaur fact at the top of this, and then I think you'll be satisfied by the rest of my topic.
Okay.
So the Apatosaurus, which is commonly mistaken for the fictional Brontosaurus, which is not a real dinosaur, it's a combination of a couple of dinosaurs, was 70 to 75 tons. And its tail could break the sound barrier.
Jesus.
Right?
There was a hidden fact in there. I didn't know brontosauruses weren't real.
Yeah.
What?
They're a combination of a couple of dinosaurs.
Goddamn.
Yeah. We didn't get it right the first time sometimes with dinosaurs.
Shit. Okay. Wow. But breaking the sound barrier with your tail, like, I wouldn't want to get hit with that.
No,
the wrong
sir.
way.
No,
or any
sir.
way at all.
No. That tail comes at me. I am making peace with whatever God is with me that moment.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get into our paleontology kind of interests. We love dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to talk about when fossils become opals.
The fuck?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Have I got you?
I'm hooked. I didn't know that. Is that what opal is?
Not quite.
Okay. I was like, my mind is spinning.
So, sources right off the top here. We have Geology IN, 2 Smithsonian articles, 2 articles from the Australian Museum, 1 from Atlas Obscura, and 1 from opalauctions.com.
Classic website.
You know, it's like 5 regular ones and 1 like really out of the box webpage.
Yeah, always.
Always. That's how you get good research. You check your really like well vetted sources, and then you throw in something crazy like that, like Florida Sunshine Blogspot dot whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So opals are found all across the world, but some of the most precious and rare opals come from Australia.
Ooh, okay.
And that's where most of our subject will take place today.
Cool.
So opalized fossils have been found in several opal fields in Australia. But there's a place called Lightning Ridge that stands out for having an incredible diversity of extinct freshwater and land creatures. including some dinosaurs.
Holy shit. I want a dinosaur opal.
Right?
I want it. No.
You're not the only one who wants a dinosaur opal, Katelyn.
Okay.
To set the scene a little bit for how these animals got there 100 million years ago. So just a hip scop and a jump back.
Yeah.
The now desert-esque interior of Australia was actually an inland sea.
Oh, okay.
And this place, Lightning Ridge, and a couple of other opal sites sat on the edge of this.
Okay, so it's a mix of land and sea creatures.
Exactly. Lewis. Lou. So over time, the sea retreated, leaving exposed a lot of sediment that formed sandstone. And the rocks that were nearest to the surface of this retreating sea began to be rich with a groundwater that had a lot of silica in it. And that silica water sank into all these cracks and crevices in these rocks, and it also sank into everything else that was on the surface of this land that was getting retreated by the sea, and that included the skeletons of dinosaurs and animals and plants and things like that.
Hell yeah. So cool. So science.
And so these opalized fossils are formed through a process called opalization, which pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
Which involves the replacement of organic material with silica, and silica is the main component of opal.
Interesting. Okay.
So there are two ways that this happens. Internal molding is the first way, and that's when an organism a shell or this can happen to bone too, or any organic matter is buried in sediment. The organic matter can decompose and it leaves a hole in the sediment, right?
Gotcha.
And then the silica-rich water gets into that hole and forms an opal molded from that cavity.
And opal is this kind of whitish, it can almost, it's very shiny, it can
iridescent,
be kind of sparkly.
Yeah, has the rainbows in it, the blue, green, pink.
Yeah, cool.
The second way that it happens is with organic mineral replacement. Basically, the silica water replaces the organic material of an organism without dissolving it entirely. So this is also known as petrification.
So, okay.
Yeah, like petrified wood and stuff, but it's opal.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. It's mind-blowing, but it makes sense.
Right? And with this, the silica molecules basically replace the organic material. And so, super detail can be preserved through this process.
Very cool.
Yeah. I'm so interested in this. I think this is so fascinating. A woman named Elizabeth Smith, who is a paleontologist who studied opal fossils at Lightning Ridge, she has found shark's teeth, turtle bones, lungfish, pine cones, birds, marine reptiles, and dinosaurs' bones and teeth all turned into opal.
That's so cool.
Check your email for some examples.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I bet they're too expensive to buy.
Oh, you have no idea.
Oh, these are so pretty. Oh, it's like a sparkly snail shell.
Right? I love the pine cones. The pine cones are my favorite.
Oh, yeah, this one. Yeah, this is really cool. You know me. I love rocks.
You love rock.
I love a rock.
And you love bone, so you gotta love bone that turn into rock.
Opal bone rock. It's right up my alley.
Exactly.
Sign me up. I need a chunk.
Right? And can that be the name of the episode? Sign me up. I need a chunk.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry. I just need to recover from that.
No, please. Sometimes you make yourself giggle. And this is not a bad thing for the fossils to go through.
Sure. It preserves them, actually.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Smith, who we were just talking about, who studies at Lightning Ridge, says, quote, to be able to see the very fine scale anatomy inside the tooth, the serrations, is really something.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, these opals, when they're formed in the way that, like, preserves the most detail, actually saves this information, petrifies it for us.
It's really cool and beautiful.
But anyone who's ever mined opal will tell you that it is hard fucking work.
Oh, yeah, I bet it is.
It's grueling work, extremely physical, also can be very emotional for people. There's a lot of ups and downs with finding opals. Sometimes you find a lot, sometimes you find not a lot. There's a woman who is a third-generation miner from Lightning Ridge, and her quote about opal mining is, quote, a good way to go broke very quickly.
Oh my God. Shit. That's her. That's what she does for a living?
That's what she fucking does for a living, and that's what she has to say about it. She's a third-generation opal miner, so all of her family has done this.
That's pretty funny.
And she's like, yeah, I don't recommend it.
Don't waste your time with this.
Right?
Well, I'm sure they have the market, like, mostly cornered. I don't know. It's probably a really big place, but yeah, I don't know.
If you're like a registered opal miner, like in Australia, you get like mineral rights. And we'll talk a little bit about how that comes into with fossils.
Okay.
Because the miners are the people who find the fossils.
Okay.
Paleontologists are out there and they're looking too, but the opal miners are out there on a daily basis fucking grinding, and they're the people who usually are the first people to spot these fossils. And, you know, they see bones, teeth, shell, even plant matter that's been turned into opal, which I find fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this is a process that takes 100 million years.
Yeah. So it's, you're holding a piece of history. That's really cool.
Exactly. And like some of these fossils that they find are like smaller than your fingernail.
Yeah. Little tiny creatures. And they find them, you know, when they're looking for bigger caches of opal or sifting through the like waste of opal mining. Yeah. If you're going to talk about this later, like just ignore me. But like, are they mining for opal mostly for like jewelry, or are there like other uses for opal?
They're mining it for jewelry and for like gemstone purposes to sell.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where, and this is a good transition, because when opal miners find opals of any sort, fossil or no, they have the rights to it. They don't, by law, have to give it up if it's a fossil, which is something that, like, you know, Lightning Ridge is just one of these opal sites that's revealing a lot of fossils. But, you know, there's a push and pull between scientists and opal miners who, you know, when times are tight, will need to sell what they find.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like, can you ask these people who grind at this every day if all they've been finding is fossils? Can you, like, it's hard to convince them to be like, put it on the museum, please.
Just give it to me. Yeah, it's like, well, I like this, like, finders keepers policy. That's funny. But, like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You spend your life working on this, but you have to, like, people have to make money. So yeah, you're gonna sell it to the highest bidder, of course. Yeah.
And I mean, definitely don't fault them on that. But a lot of opal miners have been super cooperative on donating rare finds. Like if they're like, I see something scientifically significant, I'm giving it to the correct people. And there is an organization called the Australian Opal Centre, which was founded in the late 1990s because they've been mining opal in Australia for like over 100 years.
Yeah. And there's a whole like society about it. Like,
whole towns dedicated to it.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, opal is big business.
I guess. Yeah, it hadn't crossed my mind.
And opal miners do actually get a tax deduction through the Cultural Gifts program. So if they donate something like to the like Australian Opal Centre, they do get a tax write-off, which is nice.
Okay.
So there is something in there for that. But, you know, still lots and lots of opalized fossils end up on the black market. They're pretty expensive. They are actually, the people at Lightning Ridge are trying to like create an opal center to like, they have a small museum now, but they're like trying to create a larger museum. This was as of 2019, so I'll have to check in on them and see how that's going. But you know, their opals are of such significance to Australian culture, both like historically through like fossils and stuff, and just culturally significant. And, you know, people like these scientists are trying to save these opalized fossils because sometimes they can be lost forever.
Yeah.
And there's a case of a very important fossil that was almost sold into obscurity.
Oh, shit.
And his name is Eric.
Dun, dun, dun.
You want to hear about Eric?
Yeah, what'd this fucker do?
So in 1987, an opal miner near a different town, this is in southern Australia, a town called Cooper Petty, dug out an extremely unique find.
Okay.
He found a pliosaur that was almost entirely opalized.
That is sick.
Right? An entire
so
opal
cool.
skeleton. Not technically a dinosaur, but pretty dang close.
As close as you can get, really.
This is a long extinct carnivorous marine reptile.
Ooh, okay.
And it lived in the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods from about 200 million to 65 million years ago.
Damn. Very cool.
Like I said, they're not technically dinosaurs.
They're reptiles of some kind.
Aquatic carnivorous reptiles.
Okay, sure.
Eric was kind of small for a pliosaur, and he had a short neck and a small head.
They named the opal dinosaur Eric.
Yeah.
I'm getting it now. Okay.
Eric is the opal dinosaur.
I see. Yeah, that's funny.
Eric is one of the most complete opalized vertebrates known.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, is that this one at the bottom of the email?
Yes. That's
this
Eric.
is so cool.
And you can see a close-up of Eric's spine there.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Like, completely opalized.
Yeah, cool.
If Eric was alive, he'd be about the size of a seal.
Oh, Eric.
So the miner who originally found him tried to excavate him out himself, but he didn't do like the best job and ended up damaging Eric and losing parts of Eric.
Fuck. You can't win them all, but come on.
Yeah, right?
This once in a lifetime find and you whatever.
Yeah, and so he has this amazing find and he kind of doesn't know what to do with it.
Sure, that would be shocking.
Yeah, he tries to put it together, but he's not very good at it. And the like value of the opal in this skeleton would have been probably about less than $25,000 at the time. And he thought that he could make more money off of this skeleton.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's very unique.
Yeah, and he ended up selling it to an Australian businessman named Sid Londonish.
Nice. Good name.
He's not Sid London, he's Sid Londonish.
Okay. Good distinction there.
Thank you. And Sid bought it for 125,000 Australian dollars in the 1990s.
Jesus.
So Sid, the Australian businessman, contracted the Australian Museum to try to reconstruct this fossil. And of course, because the excavation hadn't been supervised by paleontologists, it was really hard to put it together because, like I said, some of the bones were damaged and some of the pieces were missing. So it was basically a giant 3D jigsaw puzzle that was extremely valuable. Yeah. Valuable monetarily and historically.
Yeah, no big deal.
A guy named Paul Willis, who was a postgrad student, was given the task and spent over 450 hours piecing together the skeleton.
Jesus Christ. I hope he got paid well for his time.
I'm not sure if he was paid, but he did get to name it. He named it Eric after the Eric the Half a Bee song by Monty Python, the British comedy group.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's significant. That's a good thing to put on your resume, I guess. So
yeah,
no big deal. I personally put together the opal dinosaur skeleton. Want to hire me? Yes.
Yes. I mean, I would. I'm not sure if I have a job for him, but he's hired.
Yeah. Seems like he's very good at attention to detail.
Yes. Patient
yeah,
man.
Very patient.
So these opals that comprise Eric's body are thought to be from about 122 million to 98 million years ago is when they formed.
Jesus.
So I think I don't need to say this, but it's really rare to find a completely opalized skeleton.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the coolest things about Eric is that he's actually a mixture of colorful and milky opals. So you have some really shiny ones that stick out, but then a lot of them are just more of that milky kind of moonstony-esque kind of color to them.
So cool. I hope that Eric is in a museum somewhere in Australia.
Oh, he is.
Okay.
He also, another cool thing about Eric is that inside of his rib cage were a pile of smooth pebble stones.
Okay.
And these are known as gastroliths, and they are stomach stones that were used to grind up prey inside of the stomach of the animal at the time.
The fuck?
Right?
Interesting.
And they know his last meal. It was fish. And the fish are opalized.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
Right? There's even opal fish in his tummy.
It's too much. Eric, you're too much.
Eric is too much. And Eric actually turned out to be too much for the Australian businessman.
Shoot.
Trying to reconstruct this fossil and care for it left him bankrupt.
Oh no.
And so he was contemplating selling Eric and actually put Eric up on the market. And people were really worried because he was like, I don't give a shit. I will sell Eric to like the most,
anybody,
the highest bidder. Yeah. And so this was in 1992. There was a lot of interest by many museums to buy Eric, but they didn't have the funds to.
Sure.
So to be able to finance buying Eric, the ABC television science program Quantum launched the Save Eric appeal. They, in just 3 weeks, more than 25,000 individuals, families, and groups gave donations to support the purchasing of Eric and raised a total of $500,000 for the Australian Museum to buy Eric, and they did.
That's awesome.
We saved Eric, you guys.
That's amazing.
We saved him from becoming jewelry on the black market.
Yeah, thank you, ABC.
Thank you, ABC. And working forward, there are organizations like the Australian Opal Centre that seek to preserve these fossils and let people from all over the world see the beauty and the majesty of these opalized skeletons.
Hell yeah. That doesn't belong in like a private collector's basement or attic or whatever. Like that should be in a museum.
It's the wonder of nature. It's beautiful.
That's so cool.
Right? I had never, before I came across Eric in my studies of bones, I had not known that things could be opalized like that.
Yeah, I mean, anything bones, you really brought it with opal bones this time.
It's our duty to find out things about bones that people don't know.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Well, thank you for listening to my rant about opal bones, and I hope that this satisfies my quota for dinosaur facts that I have been...
I think so. I
Good.
think that you can say that you can rest easy. The dinosaurs don't feel too underrepresented.
Good. That makes me feel good because 2024 is 20 dinosaur.
Okay. I'm still reeling over the fact that brontosauruses aren't, like, accurate.
Future Sophie, you tackle the brontosaurus thing.
Future Sophie here. Gonna give you just a quick primer on something called the Bone Wars, which was a time when two archaeologists in America in the 1800s were basically in a head-to-head competition to who could find the most dinosaurs in this short period of time. And we'll talk more about the Bone Wars at another time because it's fascinating. They were blowing up each other's archaeology sites. It was a wild time. But in this time, in 1877, one of the archaeologists named Marsh, that's his last name, discovered a partial skeleton of a long-necked, long-tailed herbivore dinosaur. And he named this dinosaur the Apatosaurus. But the Apatosaurus was missing a head, so he took another skull of a different dinosaur and put it on top of the Apatosaurus's head. And a little bit later, another skeleton was found that was very similar to the Apatosaurus, but they named this skeleton Brontosaurus. But this wasn't a different type of dinosaur. This was just a more complete version of the Apatosaurus with the correct head. So that's where we get this distinction between the Apatosaurus and the Brontosaurus. And so since the Apatosaurus was discovered first, that is the dinosaur that people are saying is what we recognize as a Brontosaurus. But there was a study in 2015 that found evidence that Brontosaurus was actually distinct from Apatosaurus, so it is actually a dinosaur. What a roundabout journey we've been on. All right, ladies, I think you're about to talk about how hungry you are.
Dinner be calling my name.
Yeah, it's time. Time to eat.
Time to eat.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And as always,
Bon voyage.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter.
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
At Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
So we briefly had 4 animals in this house. The other day we went and picked up Chris's brother and sister's 2 dogs and held on to them until they could get in from their flight and get to Beaverton. And I didn't realize that Alice was so, like, protective of me. And she was, like, really mad that I was petting the puppy and, like, wouldn't let the puppy sit next to me. Like,
knows you as mama now.
she's a mama's girl, yeah.
Oh,
I was like,
Lewis
oh.
like that too. Corgis can be very protective.
Yeah, I was like, dude, she's only here for a couple hours. Like, she's a puppy. She's very cute.
She's like, no.
Yeah.
You think you can have a spot by mother?
No.
Have you
No.
braved the orange demon? I don't think so.